Alright guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be continuing with where we left off last time with the quadratic equation, but we will be reviewing something very crucial in mathematics, which is known as the quadratic formula. So I'm going to go ahead and write this down over here. B squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so the quadratic formula is x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. That's all in the root, okay? All of that over 2a, okay? And that's what the quadratic formula is. Now, b's and a's, like we said last time, is from the quadratic equation, the quadratic expression. Ax squared, oops, let me write that in a different color. Ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0, right? So the a from this goes in here, the b goes in there, and the c goes in right there, right? So you can obviously do that. If you get an equation that's not in the quadratic formula, like the quadratic expression way, like it's not sorted out in this way, you first of all want to rearrange that equation so your ax squared, your bx, and your c are in the proper places, and then substitute it. Because that's a very common trick in exams. They try to throw you off by having these in the wrong formula. So you might have the b first or the a later, something like that. So first of all, you want to rearrange your equation into this form and then substitute into this. So I'm going to go ahead and give you guys an example of a question. So let's say 3x squared minus 7x minus 1 is equal to 0. Now if you'll notice, this is actually pretty hard to do like the way we did it last time. It's very hard to factorize this. It's possible, yes, but it's not as easy as finding two terms that you can just simplify in your head. Now, you might ask, okay, well, how do I know when to use a quadratic formula? Lucky for you, if you're doing an exam and they give you an equation like this, and they say solve to either two decimal places, okay, if they say this in the question at the end, solve to 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 decimal places, or they straight up say use the quadratic formula, that's when you use the quadratic formula. So if they say solve to any number of decimal places, that means that the answer at the end won't be a simple integer like we did last time. So you have to use a quadratic formula. So we're going to use a quadratic formula right over here. I'm going to switch back to my green pen. Okay, so let's go ahead and apply the quadratic formula into this, right? First of all, we want to make sure that this is in the right form. Yes, it is. We have the ax squared right here. We have the bx and the c in their proper positions. Now, good exam habit and exam practice is to rewrite the formula. Okay? Now, why do you want to do this? First of all, you make sure that you don't make any mistakes substituting in your head. Secondly, there's actually quite often a mark saved just for you stating the formula. So by you stating the formula, and this is especially valid in GCSE exams, if you state the formula, you will get a mark for it. Now we just have to do simple stuff and substitute it. Negative 7, okay? Write it into brackets not to confuse yourself so you don't forget out the negative sign. Remember, the entire negative b term is like the negative is applied to the entire b term. So this b term, you still have to take the negative in with it. Plus or minus the square root of negative 7 squared. Okay, now obviously since it's squared, it doesn't matter if you forget the negative over here. Minus 4 times a, which is 3, times c, which is negative 1. Okay, remember there's a negative right here. All over 2 times 3. Now immediately when you look at this, you can see that there's a lot of signs. There's a lot of negatives and positives all over the place. You have to be very meticulous and careful and not mess it up over here. Okay? Messing up one of the signs could lead you to a completely wrong answer and a disaster basically. So now by simplifying what's inside over here and stuff, we get, well, the negative and negatives cancel out. So you get 7 plus or minus the square root of, this is 49, minus, and all of this is actually plus 12. Okay, because the negative 4 times negative 1 makes a positive, and you times that by 3. All over 6. Okay, 2 times 3 is obviously 6. We can further simplify this, obviously. We can get 7 plus or minus the square root of 61 Yep, that's 61, all over 6. Right? Now, remember, it's plus or minus. So your final answer is in fact 7 plus root 61 over 6. And like I said last time, let's just write this a bit higher. Or, remember the or, because there can always be two answers for these. Or 7 minus root 61 over 6. Okay, we kept the process simplified for ourselves by writing the positive and negative throughout, and only at the end when we write our answers do we split this up. Okay, now in some cases you have to leave your answer in third form. Okay, they'll say that explicitly in the question, but over here I wrote to 2 decimal places, right? So we can't forget that. Always remember what form you have to leave it in. So we're going to go ahead and write these in 2 decimal places. This one comes out to 2.47. Obviously for this part you're going to use a calculator. And this one comes out to negative 0.135. So you round it up and it becomes 0.14. Okay, and that's about it. So you use the quadratic formula. You have to memorize this part, remember. In most cases it's not given to you. If it is, lucky you. Then remember, rearrange it into this form where you can easily substitute it, and then state the formula that normally has a mark, especially in GCSE, and then it's as simple as substituting in and being very careful with the signs. And at the end, remember to look back to your question and what form it wants it in. Does it want it in 2 decimal places, 3 decimal places, 3 significant figures? How does it want it? And then write it out into that form. And that's as easy as it is to use a quadratic formula to solve quadratic equations. Thank you so much, guys.